everybody! It is Valerie Ray, the Gnome Maker. I was going to show y'all today how to make a simple gnome with a hat. No feet or arms today. So I got this cool remnant that we're going to be using this material. It's little flowers. And of course, my favorite thing, Gatorade bottles. These are the mini ones, so like, yum. We drink a lot in my house, so this is what I've been using a lot lately, is the smaller ones. And I also, my pattern for the hats that I've been making is right here. I just kind of drew this out. Like, I measured how big around it I would need the head and just made 2 points. That's how big that I would need for half of it, and then just drew this out and cut it out, and then made another one, and it blanket stitched together makes this lovely little hat. I might modify it some just for my liking later, but for right now I'm liking it pretty well, and I've modified blanket stitching on mine that have, you know, all kinds of little different designs now. And the remnants of the felts that are from this, I kind of put them up in here to make it just a little poofy. I don't like it like super poofy, just a little bit. So I have this done and ready. I do this first because of course this is what takes the longest. Stitching this, I mean, it's not super bad, but just, I have arthritis, so it takes me a little while. Okay, so I got my base. What I have done is I put a type of thin cardboard on the bottom to make it nice and even whenever I cover the bottom. And then also I put, like, it's Cracklin Oat brand cereal box. That's my favorite cereal. And then I just put it on here so the sides are smooth, because it has the little bumps on it and I just want to smooth out the sides. So all I did to measure my fabric for this is literally I took my remnant and I put how tall it is by here, and then a little bit, like about halfway up the end, and then I mark where that is, and then I roll it around and mark where that is. I do not use my measuring tape probably as much as I should, but I just do that and cut and go, and it works. I don't know. That's what I got. Okay, so I already cut me a piece. So we're going to glue it on. What I usually do is set it in the middle of the material, and I glue the middle of the, like this part right here, on the bottle first. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean. Little by little, and this is, you know, you can glue it on whichever way you like. This is just the way that I use, because I guess my habit has just taught me to do it this way. It's what is the easiest to me, works best. So, you know, if you find something that's easier, you know, share away. So basically what we have here is this. So I'll start at one side, which this is what the seam will be hidden by a beard or a braid or whatever, you know. And I haven't done these yet. So you do that all the way around. Okay, so let me finish that part. I have been wanting to do so much, and hasn't been easy. My health is not cooperating, but I'm glad to be back here now making my gnomes again and sharing with y'all guys. So this is a little bit of a slow process because I don't want a bunch of nasty wrinkles or weird looking on my nice fabric. So I do it a little at a time and keep it smooth. Need some more glue. I go through so much hot glue. You know, I really do not sew a bunch. I have with those hats with the blanket stitching, but usually I just do not sew because, well, that is a lot of work for my poor little fingers. And I can't make as much if I overwork them, so let's just do this. So, almost done. Cut this little extra. Cut a little too long. Then I could use this for something else. Alright, so this. Cat back there's she's scrapping about something. You go put her in the room. I think she's wants to go play with our other kitty cat. There we go. Oop. So we have it all the way around, all the same. So what we're gonna do now, this top, this part's like one of the easiest parts because you already have everything anchored. So you just want to glue around the top of this about, you know, where the material will be stopping, and then smooth it up and around like this. Because if you have a lot of creases and stuff in this, then it's gonna just make it more complicated when you go to add the other things on top of it. You're gonna have to do more cutting of material off and everything. This way, it makes a nice, even, I'm all hot glued up. Makes more of a nice, even, see? And I could work with that, putting the beard and everything on top of that, or whatever I am putting. And today it is going to be a little girl with just some like ponytails. She had brown hair. I know most people like to make the guys more, but sometimes I really like making the girls. There's so many things you could do with their hair, you know, and you could do different stuff with beards. I feel like girls are a little easier. So anyways, now we have the bottom. After we got this, we've got the bottom. So we are gonna go around the edge of this material. And around the bottom of the bottle. Just glue everywhere because we want it to go down here nicely. And bring it, gather it the same way as you did on the top. Just smooth out those edges. And then I press it down on the table. Just like this on the table. Get it nice and secure. And then there's usually like this little edge where the seam is that I will go in here and make sure is glued down real good. There we go. Okay, so now you have something similar to this. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's little, you know, those. So we're gonna cut those off. I like to have scissors that are more sharp on the ends of them. That way it's easier to chop these off. Because after this, you're just gonna be, you know, as you go, you're gonna be just gluing down other things that need to be glued down to make it nice and even. So, of course, this is never going to be exactly the same because it's going to gather different every time that you do this particular part. but I like to try to make sure everything's secure so it's not going to give any of my people funky troubles, like with sitting or moving or just anything. I don't want people to have trouble sitting my gnome somewhere because the fabric is gathered funny on the bottom, and so it's like this when it's sitting there. We don't want, you know, we're not leaning like a cholo in here. Ooh, if you've never heard that song, you should go listen to it. It's actually got a nice little beat to that song. Okay, so I think I'm almost done chopping up these funky little areas in my gathers. I just kind of cut it even, you know, like so. And of course, it doesn't have to be absolutely gorgeous because, I mean, it is the bottom of your gnome, but you want it decent. Do a little test, see how well it's sitting. Still leaning, so let's see what we need to do to fix that. And this is exactly why I said there might be a better way to do it, but for now, this is what I do. So, and at this point, if I was adding shoes, I would not need to make this as nice and neat on the bottom because the shoes would cover most of this area that I am working on right now. And then of course, after I evened up a little bit, then I would also, excuse me, I would also put the shoes on at this time. And then that's the order which I would be at, whether or not I had shoes at this point. Get the base, prep it, cover it. And since I don't have shoes, there is sand on the inside. I get it for $1 a bag at the Dollar Tree. I was using gravel before, but it was much more noisy. Sand is less noisy, and it seems to shift and like sit better. I don't know. Anyways, so I would add the shoes at this time. We're not adding shoes though. Next, we're going to add a little skirt. I need the hat for this, but not because the hat has to be on first. I need to see about where the hat is on here so that I can make the skirt at the proper height. So I'll put my little hat on here. And if you've never done a blanket stitch, I will tell you right now, I was very intimidated by the blanket stitch pattern, and I looked up on YouTube the just how to blanket stitch, and there's so many videos, and I just picked one randomly, and from that video I was able to learn it really simply. I felt silly that I didn't start learning it sooner because it's much easier than I thought to actually complete it and make it look really, really sophisticated. So her hat is gonna look like so. All right, here's the material I have for her skirt. Looks like this. I am gonna pick, and this is actually very nice. So I'll sit her down and just wrap it around and see how high up I want it. You know, I like to make it to where it's just barely sitting on the ground, just barely touching. That way it's a nice little coverage. This one, I call it a skirt, but it's almost more like an apron. That's a good way to put it. So not only am I seeing where I need to put this, but I'm also seeing how much around I need. Because when you have ruffles, they aren't just a simple, oh, cut there. You know, you got to pay attention to the design that's on them and things like that to make it an even seam that is less noticeable. Okay, so we're gonna go with there, get our seam. Use these other. I've got 2 pairs of scissors. You never know which one I'm gonna use. I I could never decide. Okay, so we're gonna go right here and go across. Okay. Very nice. And I'm gonna put this seam exactly where this other seam is. That way they can be hidden together. Okay, let me make sure it's pretty level and even. We don't want a cattywampus skirt. You know, because too, you want the skirt to kind of poof out, and you can't do that. If you just cut straight down without really looking at how your lines are going, then it's going to be more of a tight and not as poofy. So, Sarah, could you, I don't know what in the heck she's getting into. I'll just edit out me talking to you. Okay, so we're gonna glue this baby down. I do this just a little bit at a time as well, because I mean, I just do. It's easier to fix something if you do little at a time than it is if you just try to glue everything all at once, and then it's like, well, crap, you know. So little at a time, just be the turtle, win the race. And that's about the only speed I got these days. So yeah. Alright. Almost all the way around. Ooh, that was toasty. Silly glue. Round and around it goes. End where I started. Okay. It's matched up really nicely. Okay. So to hide this seam a little more, what you have right now, let me get this glue off my fingers. Oh, it drives me crazy. What we have right now is this little area here, and we're just gonna tack it down on the very bottom part, because we've got a pretty good match here. So if we just tack the bottom seam together and then trim the back part of it, then it should end up looking very nice. Make this top lace real nice and even. And then we're gonna put that, this very end isn't glued very good. Because the next thing we're gonna be doing is putting some ribbon around the waist to accentuate that area, and it'll also make it look more like a little apron. And we'll tie a little bow. Well, okay. So I've got it at the bottom done. Now I'm just gonna, in this little design here, there's a perfect little applique piece right here that I'm gonna put a little dab of glue on. And then that's the other place it'll be tacked down so that it looks like it belongs there. There we go. Because I mean, like I said, I'm gonna kind of hide it in my design anyways. I try to like I said before, hide all my seams, and you know, that way they're not unseemly. So here is where our little inside part is, where it overlapped. We're just gonna go closest to the seam and cut up like across at a triangle angle, because you don't have to cut off all of it. You just want to make sure that there's not double looking lace here, making it look funky. So it almost doesn't super matter where you cut, where there isn't the applique part, but you want to make sure the bottom layer of the applique is off, because see, you almost can't even tell there's a seam there now. But I mean, this is behind whoop, this here, you know. Okay, now we are going to get some of this ribbon, which I'm also going to be using for her hair to tie bows in. Oh, y'all, they want to fuss over who sits where on the couch. So we're going to get this ribbon and we are going to put it right on the very edge of here, like so, and do it all the way around and make a bow. So at this point though, you want to decide where your seam is going to be that you don't want seam. So my seam is going to be about where this lowest point of my hat's going to be. So to know where you want the back of your gnome to be, where you're going to have your bow for your apron, just put the hat on, mark the spot back here where you're going to put their bow, and then you could take the hat back off and continue on with putting the ribbon on and everything else. Let's see here. I'm going to measure about how long I need this. I always give myself extra, because I could cut off some, but I could never add ribbon after as an afterthought. So let's cut ourselves a nice extra piece here. And sometimes after I put it on, I decide, oh, I want this to be here or there, whatever. So I'm going to start at the very front with the middle of my ribbon. So I'm going to pull it down and even, and I know where my back part is, where I want to end, and so I am going to put a little bitty dot right where it's going to be covered up, where the back's going to be. That way I know where the middle of my back is, and I won't lose it. Because even if you don't go right in the middle and the front, it doesn't matter, because you know you're ending right there. So see, I made myself a little bitty dot. At this time, if there is anything you think, oh, I wish she covered this or that, or what about this thing, or if you have questions or would like to see a video about something else, you just give me a comment and I will try my best to work on that. It may not be tomorrow, but I will try my best to get it out as soon as I can for y'all. Hello, Nicholas. Don't worry, I could edit you out.
Okay. I didn't know you were making a video.
It's okay. As you can see though, so far it's looking very nice together. And I put it on there nice and not super tight, but just kind of snug. the way to back here. Now, sometimes if you're using a ribbon that isn't slippery like this ribbon I'm using right here, then you can just tack it down like randomly around the sides. This one's kind of slippery though, so I like to put it down all the way. Okay, so let's tie our knot and our pretty bow in here. If you are not good at bows, I am not a good teacher of bows. I just kind of make them, and if they're not exactly where I want them to be as far as how they're sitting, then I just glue them how I want them. So there's my trick for the day. It's like, oh, that's messed up. Hot glue it, it'll be fine. It's like Bob Ross's happy little trees are my happy little glue gun. Just glue it down. Be all right. All right, I get this bow tightened. We're almost, let's retie that. Sometimes I might redo a bow a couple times, just because I'm a perfectionist. And I usually always put something on the knot of my bow, like a little decoration or button or something. If you do not want to do that, or I have before I started to do a little button or something, I would just put a little dab of glue right under the bow to help it stay tied. That's another one of these, especially for these slippy ribbons, because they will come untied very easily while you're trying to work with it, and then you'll be all frustrated. And so it's just best to just go ahead and tack it down to something. And I so happen to have a little button in my little thing here. You never know when these are going to be on clearance or whatever. One of these little buttons right on top. Yeah.
Can I have beef flavored ramen? Will that make me sick? Because it's not the meat, but it's just flavor.
Right. Okay, so now I've got the little button on there. And it looks like so. The bow's in a pretty good place, so I will leave it. This part of the ribbon though is being just funny. So what I'm gonna do is kind of turn it to the way I want it to go, and I am gonna glue it to that top part of the bow so that it will stay how I want. Like I promise y'all, glue is your friend. It's your friend. It's not super hard, and now it's sitting better. So this glue is gonna drive me insane. All right, so now we're gonna trim this. I'm gonna leave it kind of long, but not super, and I will cut it at an angle so it's very nice touch at the very end. The diagonal is very nice. Okay, so this is how that looks. So we got the back done. Now the front, I have made this adorable little top to our apron. This is felt. They're very cheap for a big, huge piece. It's like 33 cents for the thin one, and then for the thicker kind or the stiff, it's like 79 cents. It's like under $1. Okay, so I shaped that, and then I had this beautiful decorative ribbon, and I put it around the sides. I used the ribbon we used for her bow to make little straps, and then I've got little pearl things. I've got those at Hobby Lobby. They were like this. They come with all kinds of sizes, and you know, they're 10 bucks, but go use your 40% off coupon, or wait till it was in kind of like the jewelry section. So wait till they're on sale. But you know, I have done several projects with them because there's just so many in there. Okay, so we're gonna go to the front of our little gnome here, and we're gonna put her little apron on. We're gonna put this just in the very front, like so. Okay. Let's guesstimate the front here. If you don't want to guesstimate where the very front, where you want it located, you could put the hat back on. You know, there's no shame in that. I like to verify a lot too. Alrighty, so let's get this glued down. Glue the top. Just kind of press it into place on the top. And then I'm gonna glue this bottom half where I was holding it. Because I'm gonna have to kind of just push it up against that little piece of ribbon so that it looks all connected, even though it's not. But it's easier to connect it after you're done doing the other parts than it is at a different time. Just what I have done personally, and it has worked well for me. So, you know, I'm not the master person in charge of that. I just do what I can. Glue the little straps down. I didn't put an end on these because these are going to end up under the hat where you're not going to be able to see them. So they just need to not be very long at all. Not at all. Okay, so here we are with her little top. Okay, so now we have the hat and hair. So what I like to do with these particular hats is put the hat on. I'll figure out exactly where I want it to be, how I want it to sit. Match it up in the back so I could see. I try to also look from far away from behind so I could see kind of where the little tail ends hit, because you want them to be, you know, a little symmetric. It doesn't have to be perfect, but from both sides of the hat, you want it to be looking like, you know, you had a purpose making this way, and there's reason, you know. So that's pretty well in the middle. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you know. At this time, we can choose also what size of nose and the placement of the nose. I personally like to put it on before I tack down the hat and or the hair. So this size nose, I believe, is going to be pretty good for her little nose. I think it'll be perfect. And this size is, let me get the bag of them. It is the 3/16 with the little holes in them. Hobby Lobby is where I normally get them, but honestly, you never know where you're gonna find them. And as long as you know the size, you can order online if that's your thing. I just like to get out of the house a little bit these days, so that's what I do. All right, I always get the ones with the holes. It may just be in my head, but I feel like putting glue in the hole and around this little part helps it be tacked down much better. And I'll get it up in there, kind of positioned where I want. and then press it down nice and hard. Because I kind of want it covered up a little bit, like, you know, just a little sticking out. Look in the front, make sure it still is looking nice and even. All right, so we have our nose. Now for the hair, we also at this time though, really, you know where you want your hat and you already got your nose positioned. So what I'm gonna do is put a little bit of glue up under this back piece and kind of hold it down. That way I know, hey, you know, this is where it's gonna be. And that way when I'm messing with it, with my hair and getting my hair into place, I can have this in position, being held down. I'm not messing it up, in other words. You know, prevention, that's what it's for. All right. Just, come on, dry, nice and held down. All right. So we are going to get our hair into position now. I already cut the hair and measured it. This is just the same material that I would use on beards. I cut it into little strips and then I fold it in half and then kind of make a little line of glue and hide the seam, and then you get this little thing here, which is really easy to work with whenever it comes to these things, because then you just stick it up in there, adjust your hat how you would like it around there. You know, adjust where you want it to be. And there's one. I do not glue them down till I have them both in place and where I want though, because I don't want to glue one and then I can't glue the other exactly and I can't figure out how I want them to be. So stick this other one in here. Make the bows a little bit even, you know, the symmetry I was noting on earlier. Kind of more towards here. You just got to kind of play with it how you want it to be. You got to take into consideration how your hat looks everywhere else, as well as how the hair is sitting and looking at this point. So I'm gonna glue these into place. And with the hair, I want it glued in well because I don't want it to move after. So I'm gonna grab it right around where the top of the hair is. And we've already got this tacked into place where I want it to stay. So I'm just gonna pull it back and fold these out of the way. Some of my stuffing there. And I'm gonna glue down these hair little ponytails. Kind of make double sure while it's drying that it's still looking even. It's not being messed up by how you're holding it or anything. Because, you know, you never know what's gonna happen. Hold it down good in place. Sometimes I'll even glue down the lower portion if it's just really not wanting to sit with only the top glued down. So glue is your friend. It is your friend. All right. So now we got those in place. Let's get this hat back down around here. Back where we want it to be. Just my little stuffing that I had up in there. I've been messing it up. I mean, you could even wait till this point to do your stuffing. I just so happen to have it all ready in there for this video. Okay, so I've pulled my hat back down now. We're gonna put this kind of under here. Kind of make sure it's sitting right again on top of this hair. Even, didn't get all funky. There we are. I think we are ready to go ahead and glue our hat into place. So you just can lift this like so to get your glue up under there without making a mess, because I know that this can be a more difficult part of it. Just fold it the opposite way. Then if you make a little glue mess, it's not a big deal. Now, kind of work with your hat. Just get it down into place around the nose. I like it, these hats kind of tight around the nose, but not too tight, because I kind of want it to lay flat going from the nose to the hair. So kind of like that, so where it's not super pinched around the nose. There we go, that should do finally. I always got to play with my stuffing, you know, make sure it's not looking funky. So at this time, make sure back here we're still looking good, and glue down the rest of the hat, which this, same as the other. Pull it up, glue around. The other thing I don't like is these to be glued down all the way. I kind of want them to sit and look, you know, natural and just kind of hang out. So like, I don't glue this bottom part down. I just leave it to do what it wants. Because, you know, someone might want it more like this, you know, sticking out. Some people like it to be like, I'm flying, you know, and some people like it more tucked under, so it'll stay either way because of the stitch and how it's done. So, okay, I'm gonna tack down this other side. And that is the finished product. Don't listen to my dogs. They love to talk to each other. It's like, don't jump up here. Okay. But yeah, here we are. And she is ready to go. Don't forget to visit my Facebook page, Crafting and Heartfelt Creations. Thank y'all.